My name is Maya Alexander, and I'm with Alliance for the Shenandoah Valley. Alliance for the Shenandoah Valley is a proud partner in the Shenandoah Rail Trail Exploratory Partnership. Now, the partnership is the one that is hosting the meeting this evening, and I'm going to go ahead and pass it on over to a friend of ours, Bonnie Riedesel, who is the Executive Director with the Central Shenandoah Planning District Commission. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it on over to you, Bonnie.
Okay, thank you, Maya. Hope everybody can hear me well. Good evening. It's so good to see so many people. I think we have about 40 people on right now and expecting a few more. I am Bonnie Riedesel. I'm the Executive Director of the Central Shenandoah Planning District Commission, and I also serve as the Vice Chair of the Shenandoah Rail Trail Partnership's Executive Committee. Tonight's meeting is the virtual component of a series of 9 meetings held by the Shenandoah Rail Trail Partnership to discuss the Shenandoah Rail Trail. The partnership, the Shenandoah Rail Trail Partnership, is a coalition of 9 towns, 3 counties, 2 regional planning district commissions, and several local nonprofits who have come together to explore the possibility of transforming an unused rail corridor into a 50-mile multi-use trail between Broadway and Front Royal. So far, we have had meetings in Broadway, Timberville, New Market, Mount Jackson, Edinburgh, Strasburg, and Front Royal, all very well attended. There will be 2 more meetings, one in Woodstock this Thursday, April the 6th, and in Tom's Brook on Monday, April the 10th. We will provide those times and locations for these meetings later with this presentation. We're excited to have everyone here this evening to talk about this exciting trail project. I'd like to go over the agenda for tonight's meeting and some of the logistics. Over the course of this evening, we will discuss a trail as the best option for this unused rail corridor. We'll start with a short presentation from the Shenandoah Rail Trail Partnership to discuss this opportunity. We will then hear from a representative from the Virginia Department of Transportation, VDOT, about their involvement in the project and what they are working on now. And then we will get to the fun part, where we want to hear from you on how we can build the best trail for our region. In a few minutes, we will explain how we have set up this virtual meeting so that you can provide your input and interact. So to get us started, I'd like to introduce Maya Alexander, who just introduced herself. Maya is the Community Engagement Manager with the Alliance for the Shenandoah Valley, one of the nonprofit members of the partnership. So I'll turn it back over to you, Maya, to go over the logistics and the presentation tonight.
Thank you so much, Bonnie, for that welcome. Yes, just give me 1 second for me to pull up my slides again. All right. Great. So yeah, like Bonnie had mentioned, tonight we will discuss an opportunity for turning the Shenandoah Rail Corridor, an unused single track railroad line, once an integral part of the Shenandoah Valley, into an asset once again, serving local communities and visitors and creating new economic opportunities. I think it's first important to orient ourselves. So the Shenandoah Rail Corridor that we're discussing tonight, you can see here it's indicated with the yellow line there. It connects Broadway in the south and Front Royal in the north, and it passes through 3 counties, Warren, Shenandoah, and Rockingham, and right through, or in some cases very close by, 9 towns, Timberville and Broadway in Rockingham County. We have New Market, Mount Jackson, Edinburgh, Woodstock, Tom's Brook and Strasburg, and Shenandoah, and we have Front Royal and Warren County. The rail line also runs parallel to the North Fork of the Shenandoah River and the Massanutten Mountain Range. Now that we've oriented ourselves, we know where the rail corridor is. I think it's also important to acknowledge the historical significance of the rail corridor. The Shenandoah Rail Corridor once served the valley, delivering freight and passengers along the corridor. The first trains arrived in Woodstock, which you can actually see, this is the depot here in Woodstock in this photo, The first trains arrived in Woodstock in 1856 and operated until the mid-1950s when passenger service ended along the entire corridor. Maybe some of you all here this evening have ridden the trains or remember when the trains were active coming through, or maybe even have a train related story in your family. Now, starting in the 1940s, freight service along the Shenandoah Rail Corridor started to decline, with freight shifting to trucks and the rail line 10 miles to the east and the Page Valley. That's the corridor you'll see in the lighter green on the right. That serves the inland port and Front Royal. In 1989, freight service between Edinburgh and Mount Jackson was discontinued, as you can see is shown here in red. By 2016, rail service ended between Broadway and Strasburg. And in 2020, the last shipper along the corridor from Strasburg to Front Royal closed. And today there's not a single company that ships freight over this line. Now, over the years, there have been multiple unsuccessful efforts to restore rail service, including multi-million-dollar efforts to subsidize capital and operational rail costs, efforts to recruit new industrial rail users, and even efforts to contract with a short line or tourist train. Now, in most places, the rail corridor looks like this that you see on the left. And without an adequate number of freight users along the route and with the constraints of a single track corridor, meaning only one train can travel in one direction at a time, and at a low speed through the towns and road crossings, restoring rail service along this corridor has not been shown to be economically feasible. So in August of 2020, Norfolk Southern, the current owner of the rail line, formally announced that the corridor between Front Royal and Broadway was for sale. Now, tonight we are talking about turning this unused resource, once an integral part of the Shenandoah Valley, into an asset once again, serving local communities and creating new economic opportunities, and maybe that's through a rail trail. With freight stopping in 2020, a trail is a viable use that will keep this corridor and a beneficial use for the public. The acquisition of the corridor for the development of a trail would employ rail banking, a legal mechanism preserving future rail use, should market conditions change and make it feasible to restore along the corridor. So now let's talk about what is a rail trail. A rail trail is a shared use path on what used to be an active rail line. It is for walking, biking, wheelchairs, strollers, or even horseback riding where suitable. And rail trails tend to have easy grades and curves on a level surface because it was graded for trains. And according to the Rails to Trails Conservancy, there are more than 24,000 miles of rail trails across the country. About 450 miles of those belong to Virginia. Maybe some of you all here have been to some, just like the High Bridge Trail that you see here pictured, that's in Farmville, the Virginia Creeper in Damascus, the New River Trail in Galax, and the Huckleberry Trail in Blacksburg, just to name a few. Now, in order to turn an unused rail corridor to a rail trail, the tracks are removed and replaced with a gravel or paved surface to create a wild, level, and smooth surface. The decking on bridges are improved and railings added so they are safe for trail users. Road crossings are analyzed and redesigned to ensure safety. Trailheads are located at points along the trail to provide public access to neighboring communities and visitors. And trailheads also generally include parking, restrooms, trash cans, benches, signage, and maybe even bike repair stations. Rail service along the locals have been trying to come for restoring this resource when options to explore new rail weren't successful. So the 9 towns, 3 counties, 2 planning commission districts, and local nonprofits along the corridor came together in 2019 to create the Shenandoah Rail Trail Exploratory Partnership to explore the option of converting the unused, overgrown rail corridor into a community asset that would once again connect and serve communities along the route, the Shenandoah Rail Trail. So looking at this map here that you see on the left side of your screen, take a moment to take in all the bridges, river crossings, parks, and towns that you see that the route would connect to. A Shenandoah Rail Trail would reconnect the towns and communities along the corridor in a way that they haven't been since the passenger train stopped. It would reconnect kids to school, employees to work, customers to shops, diners to restaurants, and community members to parks, rivers, and historic sites. And it will be a tremendous boost for our downtowns and local businesses. Visitors to the trail will provide economic opportunities for new entrepreneurship. Community members will enjoy thriving local businesses in the towns. And the addition of the Shenandoah Rail Trail to the already enticing local amenities will attract companies that seek to locate in a place that offers a high quality of life to the folks that they employ. So this means the potential for new job opportunities across many sectors. And in the Valley, we're surrounded by opportunities to enjoy the outdoors, but many of our trails require a car to access, and by the nature of our terrain, are geared for more advanced trail users. A Shenandoah Rail Trail would be flat and accessed from the towns and neighborhoods along the corridor, making it a safe and easy way to get outside to walk, run, or roll with family members of all ages and abilities. Now, continuing to explore a Shenandoah Rail Trail, while you may not see progress yet on the ground, a lot has actually happened. Starting with a feasibility study that was completed by the state that found that the trail is feasible and has broad community support, as well as an economic impact analysis that shows the Shenandoah Rail Trail is a good investment and will be a catalyst for economic development in the region. And with support from the 3 counties, an appraisal of the rail corridor is complete, and state funds are set aside to purchase the corridor. And continuing, discussions with Norfolk Southern are ongoing. We're hoping for news of the purchase in the near future. And in just a few minutes, you will hear from representatives from the Virginia Department of Transportation who are here this evening about the preliminary design work that they are going to be, that they are doing to be ready for the federal investment of $3 million towards preliminary engineering. And last but not least, a newly formed nonprofit, Friends of the Shenandoah Rail Trail, is working on a new website and will kick off a fundraising campaign soon to raise private dollars to match the state and federal investment in this trail. So with that concludes my portion of the presentation. And like I mentioned, you will be hearing from a representative from VDOT. I'm going to pass the mic to Brad Reed, who will talk about the work that they're doing to get ready for the federal investment of the $3 million towards the preliminary trail engineering. So with that, I'll pass it over to Brad.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brad Reed, as Maya said. I'm with Virginia Department of Transportation. I'm in the planning group out of the Stanton office, but we cover our 11 county district. The Stanton district covers the entirety of the 50-mile trail section. So we first got involved in 2020 when the General Assembly issued in their budget bill a requirement for the Department of Conservation and Recreation to put together a feasibility study, the one Maya referenced earlier, for establishment of a linear park, they call it, along the discontinued rail service. So that looked at things like the scope of what that would involve, where potential trailheads might be, what the costs would be, and really just would it be feasible to deliver that project. So that was a really thorough effort as far as the outreach. We had a public engagement portion with that and heard from actually several thousand individuals within the Valley and beyond on what they thought of the project. So that was very helpful. We issued that report, or DCR issued that report in 2020 saying the trail is feasible. Since then, the latest development is that the Commonwealth Transportation Board, which many of you may not be familiar with, this is the board, it's part of the state government, the board that controls the purse strings for transportation funding in the Commonwealth. They are identifying priority trails throughout the Commonwealth, one of which is the Shenandoah Valley Rail Trail, for some additional development of scope, schedule, and estimate for delivery, so that we can get a better understanding of what it would take should the project be funded and what it would take to move forward with it. So VDOT is currently leading that effort and has funding to do so, and will be delivering information to the Commonwealth Transportation Board later this year. So just want to say thank you so much to the partnership for having me here this evening, and I'll be joining in the trail design room to help understand a little bit more about what folks are looking for, design elements, things that we ought to think about with our cost estimate, and make sure that we have a good grasp of what that scope's going to be so that we can deliver the best information we can. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Brad. So yeah, Brad alluded to a little bit what we're about to get to, the breakout rooms. But basically, yeah, we want to make sure that we are working together to build the best trail for your community and its unique needs. So thank you, Brad, for being here tonight. And yeah, we're happy to be working with VDOT to get some input. So before we transition into our breakout rooms though, I would like to remind everyone of the upcoming meetings to attend and share thoughts and ideas in person. Maybe some of you all have already attended our in-person meetings, but there are some opportunities for those who haven't been able to. You're more than welcome to come out to Woodstock, which is this Thursday, April 6th at 7 p.m. at the Central High School cafeteria. You'll enter through door 32. And then Tom's Brook is next week, the following Monday, April 10th at 7 p.m. at the Tom's Brook Fire Hall. And if you can't make it to either meeting, please stay tuned for project updates at shenandoahrailtrail.org. And now kind of moving through, I know I keep talking about the breakout rooms, we'll get to them, but in just a moment, we will review and open the breakout rooms for everyone to give their input. But I would first like to take the time to give you all a special preview of the interactive map that we plan to launch very soon. So the special preview is on your screen. This has not yet been launched, but this is an interactive map that is being created to hear from you, where there should be trailheads, parking, connections to places you like to go, additional trail access points or spots that might need special consideration along the trail corridor. For any of you who have attended one of our in-person meetings, you've seen this demonstrated at the map station. We don't have this to launch tonight, but we did want to make sure we gave you all a preview, and we do want to make sure that people have a way to give their input even after we launch these meetings, and to share with family and friends, because we'll be able to share the link will be shareable. And once we do officially launch the map, we will send the link to the email that you registered with for tonight's meeting. So stay tuned. So we already have your email information, and we will be launching this very, very, very soon. So now with that, the fun part. So again, don't leave now. This is where we want to hear from you. How do we build a trail to best serve you and your community with